Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me today to talk about time. So let's get started. If you like what you hear today, please leave a like, subscribe, tell your friends, send me a message. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about, the subtleties of time. Einstein, remember him, said that time was relevant, the relativity theorem. But that's true, but I think it's even more flexible than even Einstein thought. Time, like everything in our lives, only exists to each one of us because each of us decides to acknowledge it and make it part of our reality. What do you mean by that? Well, you might be saying time is one of those basic dimensions, right? Well, how many dimensions are there? It used to be thought that there were three dimensions, right? There's, X, Y, and Z. The left, right, up, down, behind you and behind, in front of you and behind you. Well, then that expanded to four because it included time. Okay, so there's all the time and space right now, and then there's the time and space in a second from now. Well, the current count is that there are likely at least 10 different dimensions. And personally, I happen to feel there are probably an infinite number of dimensions, but that and its ramifications are a topic for another whole day. But however, back to time, remember when we were little how long each day seemed. I mean, there was so much to do before breakfast, and then you ate, and then there was the whole long morning, and then lunch, and on and on and on. There's just stuff to do all the time, and it seems like you could pack a ton of stuff into a day. Sometimes it seemed to go too quickly, but sometimes very slowly for something you weren't interested in. But each day usually seemed to be pretty much jam packed with new things to do that kept us engaged and wanted to go on. And then we went to school. Well, kindergarten was kind of fun, but then came real school, and our whole world changed. Time took on a whole new, almost sinister dimension. Our whole life became kind of determined by that silly clock on the wall. It didn't matter if we wanted a snack or how to use the restroom. It was a great day to be outside. Suddenly, every minute of the day was accounted for. Plus, the clock's good friend, the calendar, he made sure to keep track of all the days in the year and decide when we could do what and when holidays were and everything else. Between the two of them, cheapers, it seemed like they controlled our entire life. Suddenly, our whole world changed. Instead of doing something to maximize the pleasure or knowledge or whatever, we became focused on doing something in the allotted amount of time, or even worse, to fill the allotted time if we're doing something that wasn't interesting. Then, as we grew up, not only was our own present being controlled by that abstract dimensional time, then the present expanded to include going into the future, not to mention we should think about the past. We have all these things all related to time. Dr. Benjamin Hardy, I mentioned him before, he kind of proposes that there's no such thing as the future or the past, that there's only the present. That those other concepts, the future and the past, they're really determined by how we decide to interpret and view our memories of the past and how we decide to envision the future. Merging those concepts plus our modern day fascination of making the most of our time kind of brings us to this interesting point in our perception. Many of us spend our days preparing for the future by doing things we find ungratifying or driven by lessons from the past that may or may not be relevant. And in all of that, we completely overlook what's going on right now in the present. I'm sure you've heard some version of the saying that as you get older, the days go slowly and the years pass quickly. Simply, that is us not paying attention to the present. It's as simple as that. When we should be enjoying the pretty flower, we're instead thinking, I have 5 minutes to get home to get on that telephone call. Instead of spending time with our kids or grandkids, we're planning for their future. This isn't to say we should live like a leaf blowing in the breeze, although sometimes that may be appropriate. It's about keeping a balance in all things. But back to that nonlinear time. So what's up with that? Well, if we're always looking at what to do next and ignoring what we have already accomplished, suddenly life as a whole just goes zipping by because there's nothing to ground us in the present. This isn't about mindfulness per se, but that is a part of it. It is just recognizing that every minute of the day is just as precious now that you're older as when you were a child. Think about, what's going on around you right this second. Maybe you're hopefully paying attention, listening to this podcast, or something else is going on in the next room, maybe a car is driving by, whatever it is, you hear the TV droning on. Well, what are they actually saying? If you're on the highway going somewhere, and instead of just thinking, oh, yeah, there's cars going by and there's stuff going on, what are the cars? Are the people in the cars interesting at all? Are there billboards that are interesting? Is it a pretty sunset that has to be going on right now? Pay attention to what's going on you know Even the people in your life, don't think of them. Sometimes you get wrapped up kind of like, oh, there's just more problems to solve. Got to get the kids here, got to do the grandkids there, got to, somebody needs money, somebody has a form they forgot to fill out, whatever. Turn that upside down. How can you be close to them and make them smile? Making them smile doesn't always necessarily mean doing something fun for them, but if you do something to make their life better, now they've smiled and you've all, same problem. They needed this form to be filled out and their parents left and you're there to fill it out for them, whatever. You can either make it a problem that they brought to you or an opportunity to bring some joy into their life. These and a million other things are what can help to put the brakes on life just flying by and also make the days interesting and no longer endless. It's funny how those two perceptions kind of happen together. But it's exactly why vacations tend to be so special. Since they're different, we pay attention, and so our days are filled with interesting things. And every night we have things to remember and talk about, and then afterwards we have the memories of the vacation lingering long after it's over, and we have conversations with people about them. What's different? It was still a week or 2 weeks. It could have been 2 weeks of work, 2 weeks of just hanging around the house, not doing anything, watching TV, kind of half watching TV, or whatever. But it was 2 weeks that are fun. It's because we made them interesting. Remember, we create much of our own reality. We can make every day special in some way and slow our lives down. So every day you get the chance to see things that make life interesting, learn new things, bring joy into the world, and consciously make your own reality. And that reality doesn't have to be what society wants or what your friends say you should be doing or anything else. Your reality can simply be to treasure life and enjoy those treasures in every single way possible. I think you'll find that suddenly the days seem different and memorable, that they won't whiz by in a blur and suddenly another season or even another year just kind of silently slip by. In today's fast-paced world, this phenomenon is happening to younger and younger people as well. It's not an old age thing. It's simply paying attention to what's going on in your life and what's going on around you. It sounds simple, and at one level it really is, but it does take some dedication to not get into this kind of comfortable, routine and miss all the reasons you're here. So that's it for the evening. I hope you found, and found some ideas of just ways to make life a lot more interesting. You're able to try and make some small changes to recognize the new and interesting things that are going around you all the time. It's even the people in our lives, everything. If you just pay attention to them for a second, look for the good, and remember to celebrate the wins and successes that made our yesterdays so special, I think you'll find that overall things will just be a lot more fun and just more memorable and just a lot more pleasant. By being a bit more aware of life, we can change the dynamic that more people find themselves of racing through life with no destination and missing out on all that joy. We have the power to change that perception. We have the power to control it. Your homework, always optional, is to bring a little paper or pad with you the next time you go out. Personally, I'm a big fan of actually writing something down rather than typing it on a phone. It uses a lot more of your brain, really gets in your head a lot better. And when you can, write down a few fun or interesting things that you saw or heard. You may have to work, to actually notice something as opposed to, oh, I got out and I walked in the store. Who'd you walk by? What was sitting on the shelves as you walked by? Was there anything interesting? You saw some people. It's, oh, that's a guy I know from work. Hey, how's it going, Bob? Just be aware of the things going around you. But before you write it down, make sure it's something that you actually paid attention to. This should make the days a lot more memorable. Extra points then, if you can save your notes, save them, and in a week or two, look at a couple of the old notes to remind yourself of what you found interesting on that day before. Then close your eyes and just remember for a second. This will help slow down the weeks and the years, because now you'll have a history, and you realize, that's right. That was the day they had the roses on sale at the store, and I picked one up, and there was an old lady outside, and I gave it to her. And she started crying. She was so happy. It's those little things that make life memorable, and that's what will make all of your life memorable. So that's it for the evening. Please remember, around the world right now, I can't put up a banner, but remember ukr7.com. Wars going on in many places in the world. Israel and Palestine, Ukraine, lots of other little wars going on. Stuff going on in Kenya now, getting worse. It's just nonstop. All these people in a bad way. And so we tend to sometimes forget how much we have. So think about them. If you can, and make a donation to one of the groups helping them. World Central Kitchen, WCK.org is another place, WCK.org. Anything you do to help somebody else. If you can donate monetarily, that's great. If you can't, just make somebody's life nicer. Just smile at them, make their day a little more fun. So remember always, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. Changes your perspective on the world, puts you out and more in touch with everyone else. So if you can and able, please check it out, ukr7.com, World Central Kitchen, WCK.org. Just make somebody smile. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting and useful, please pass it along. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and if not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.